a paper on the nature of beauty, and I just want to talk to you about that for a few minutes. So, beauty can be defined as a set of aesthetically pleasing characteristics. But what are those characteristics? Is beauty objective, or is it subjective? Could it be both of them? Can you argue something's beauty? Society has conventional standards as to what beauty is. These ideals have changed throughout time. For example, trends. You watch the way people do their makeup change, the way people do their hair change. Obviously, the clothes that you wear are not the same clothes that your parents wore. They have different styles and different fads that change throughout time. Another example would be the ideal body type of a woman. At one point, or at several points in history, smaller framed women were deemed to be absolute. And then at other points, more plump women. I think it was after the Renaissance, the bigger you were, the more beautiful you were, because you symbolized wealth. Well, obviously these aesthetics change, and you can fit outside of these aesthetics and still be considered to be pretty or be attractive, but society has these set standards that change throughout time, obviously, and you can fit outside of that and still be pretty. So I'm going to go back a little bit further into the history of aesthetics. The word itself is derived from Greek, and it means of sense pleasure. Aestheticians, or people who study aesthetics, ask questions like, what makes something beautiful? Or what makes this piece of art successful? So aesthetic judgments use our ability to discriminate using our sensory at a sensory level. But when we make judgments based on beauty, we use our sensory, emotional, and intellectual abilities all at the same time. According to Immanuel Kant, beauty is only objective, but there is a second sense of beauty, subjective. So, could these both exist at the same time and both be true, or is it one or the other? Beauty obviously doesn't exist only when we discuss human characteristics. It exists in art and natural occurrences like the Northern Lights, and obviously in human life as well. Beauty is, as explained, a very broad topic, and it covers much ground. So does that mean that there are different types of beauty? Artistic values such as creativity and originality, these help determine the successfulness of a piece of art, or that's what artists like to use for judgment. So if there are different types of artistic values, does that mean there are different types of aesthetic values? And if so, that must mean there are different types of beauty as well. So I'm gonna explain a little bit more of what objective beauty is. Objective beauty is when the beauty is in the object itself. So for example, the Grand Canyon. Philosophers who argue objective beauty would say that the Grand Canyon is beautiful regardless of whether you're there to admire and say that it is or not. The beauty is simply within the object and completely independent of your experience of it. So the reason why everything can't be objective, every beauty can't be objective, is for the simple fact that you and I both know we have different perceptions of what beauty is. So for example, I could find someone completely breathtaking and you could just simply disagree, but the fact that you disagree doesn't change the fact that I found that person to be beautiful, or that moment to be beautiful, correct? So that leads us into subjective beauty. So obviously everyone's drawn their mom a piece of art or a picture growing up, or drawn something for their grandparents or a teacher or something, and at the moment it was like, dang, like this is the best piece of art I've ever drawn, you know. And then you grow older and you look back at it and you see you coloring outside the lines, you see you're unproportionate, and you look back at it, you know, like you kind of turn your nose up at it. But the person that you gave it to and that held on to it all these years might say, well, no, that's beautiful to me, like that's to me. So I don't believe that the fact that it's a scrappy piece of childlike art takes away the fact that that person, I don't think that that makes them wrong in thinking that that art is beautiful, because it's to them, it's true for them. So that's an example of subjective art. Or a puppy that is blind and doesn't have any eyes. Some people would be like, oh, that's an ugly dog, but then others would be like, oh no, he's special, he's beautiful, you know? So for the reason why that's all beauty cannot be subjective is let me explain this. If all beauty was subjective, and everything that everyone said was beautiful truly was beautiful, then what meaning would that word hold? It wouldn't hold much weight at all, because at that point we're just expressing personal approval. So if all beauty can't be subjective, and at the same time all beauty can't be objective, but both of these type of beauty for sure exist, that means that there's two different types of beauty, right? So the objective sense of beauty, I'd further explain, is when the object itself holds the beauty. The beauty within that object is completely independent of any experience, any personal approval at all. And the subjective sense of beauty is when the beauty is within the experience. It's completely personal. It's a personal thing. So at the beginning of writing this paper, I was 100% sure that beauty was all in the eye of the beholder. That's what you're told growing up, and I had just learned to accept that, you know. But the further I dug into it, and then when the research I found made the point that if all beauty was subjective, then what weight does that word hold? Kind of made a light bulb go off in my head, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, all beauty can't be subjective, you know. So now I'm kind of right there with it's got to be both of them. So in conclusion, there are at least two types of beauty. Sometimes beauty is objective, and sometimes it is subjective. Beauty can be completely dependent upon a personal experience, and other times wholly independent of it. And I've learned that beauty cannot be defined with a simple definition. It is both personal and it's both universal at the same time. There's different types of it. You can't really put it in one box, you know? So, with that being said, I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you're all safe.